Hi, my name is Abby Hunter, and I'm a part of a project to bring light to the creative community that we have right here in our own Lancaster County. And today with me, I have Lisa Stroud. And tell us a little bit about yourself, Lisa, and how you became an artist.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here and to finally get to chat with you, Abby. To start about how I became an artist, it was a rather circuitous pathway. I did not grow up wanting to be an artist. I'm not one of those people that knew forever I wanted to be an artist. As a matter of fact, if you had asked me what I wanted to be, I always wanted to be a lawyer. And that's because my parents brought me up telling me that I was going to be the lawyer of the family. So I always thought I would be a lawyer until I got into my 20s and discovered my rebellious side. I did about a 13 to 14 year stint in the insurance business. And while I was working in the insurance commercial marketing business of large commercial accounts, I discovered that I loved photography, which really got me interested in going off on other creative pathways. So while I was in my 30s, I went back to college and took a lot of classes in journalism. I had a BA in history, and I took a lot of classes in journalism. And while I was taking these classes, I freelanced an article to the local Raleigh Times here in Raleigh, and they not only accepted the article, they offered me a job as a feature writer with the newspaper. So I quit my job in the insurance business and I went to work for them as a feature writer. And I was still doing a lot of photography. I was writing human interest stories, interviewing people and writing about interesting things that were going on, like interviews with Martha Stewart. I loved doing interviews and I loved writing. I stayed there for several years and then took off on my own as a freelance writer and photographer. I was writing for national magazines and local magazines, corporations, writing political speeches, writing annual reports, newsletters, anything that would pay. And while I was in the process of doing this, and I might add, very much loved the writing part of it, my mother developed what was called vascular dementia, which is dementia that comes from a series of strokes and heart attacks. For 7 years, I began as her solo caregiver. And in that process, it became very difficult for me to write. I think my brain cells were frozen. And after a while, I started turning down assignments. I was dabbling with some fiction, but I was having a very tough time caregiving. And a friend of mine, who I did not know at the time, had just met, said, "You need a creative outlet. There's an abstract painting workshop that we're going to host next week. Why don't you come?" And I said, "Oh, no, not me. I don't have a creative bone in my body. No, I can't do this." Well, I thought about it, and I finally went to the workshop, which freed me up to start painting. At first, I was conflicted, but within about a year or so, I had made the commitment to work full-time in painting. So then I left the business of writing. Once my mother passed away, I began to paint full-time. And I think part of that ease was that I began by writing on my canvases. So it was sort of a marriage of both careers for a while.
Yeah.
So that started about 15 or 16 years ago, and I've never looked back. I loved writing, but I never loved it as much as I loved painting.
And how would you say COVID-19 has affected not only your life in general, but your work as an artist?
Well, I was in New York with Fran the first week that COVID really hit, and we were all talking about it, and came home concerned that I would get COVID, which I never did get COVID. but also concerned about what was going to happen with the art business. And much to my surprise, I discovered I was selling a lot more art than I had sold before, and I was getting more commissions. I think a lot of people like me were marooned at home, and they began to look around and said, what can I do to fix up my house? They were in these empty nests that they wanted all of a sudden to redecorate because they were spending so much time at home. And one of the side things was that I did begin to sell more art and I did get more commissions. I think as time wore on, most artists were very concerned about what was going to happen with the art market and what was going to be our future ability to sell, and became very introspective. I did, and I went inside and said, what is it that I really love to paint? What is my voice? And I began to work in a sketchbook. About 3 or 4 months ago, I began very devoted to a sketchbook, and I haven't made a lot of really large paintings since because I've been exploring a lot of new things in my sketchbook. So I think for a lot of artists that I've spoken with, they have begun to focus on what is it in art that brings them joy. I know that's what has happened with me.
How would you say your experience was being a visiting artist with us in Lancaster?
Well, that's interesting. I came last year to assist on the mural that went on your greenway. I was really blown away, Abby, with the number of supporters that came out in complete support of the mural as well as the greenway. Not only walkers, but people who were volunteering to assist on the mural. I was really impressed with the support for that in Lancaster. And then I returned in September for the Marian Hagin art competition. And again, I was blown away with the number of accomplished artists that live and work right in your area and the serious support they get from them from Lancaster Arts Council.
Oh, well, on your website, you say you're always looking for inspiration behind your work. What would you say inspired you to create your series, Little Black Dress?
Oh, Little Black Dress. I went to college in Asheville, and I was in Asheville visiting probably close to the time that I started painting. I was walking down the street and I saw a mannequin with a little black dress. And for some reason, like an idea that just sits with you and marinates and percolates, I thought about it, I photographed it, and I thought about it for about a year before she made her appearance very prominently in my paintings. So that was, I would say, 13 years ago. So I started thinking about the little black dress as a symbol. And I have to tell you, Abby, I'm not sure that I really knew at the time what she meant to me. I think a lot of artists begin to use symbols, not really sure what the hidden meaning is. They just know that there's some kind of connection. And there was definitely a connection. And so I began to use the little black dress in my paintings. I think initially, because I was starting to paint, to me, it was sort of about self-improvement. But she is a symbol that I've come back to over the years. I might not use her in a painting for a year, and then the next thing I know is I'm drawing a little black dress. So she keeps on making an appearance. And finally, I realized that the little black dress to me is putting myself in a painting as the witness. It's like she is me and I'm the witness in the painting to what's unfolding on the canvas. Oftentimes, the painting doesn't even start with a little black dress. She just, winds up entering into the painting to make it complete. So I think as time has gone on, it has become a symbol to me of myself as a witness to the world that I'm presenting when I paint.
Okay. And when I was admiring your work, I saw that a lot of your pieces incorporated paint drips. Is there a reason behind this recurring theme?
The drippings, the paint drips, I do think so. And it was kind of like the little black dress. I think it could be a symbol of sorts. When you use the drip, when I use the drip, normally it's a different color. So it's a different contrast. It's also a different shape. So it's about, the principles of design. It's a whole different element of interest in the painting. But I think most importantly, a drip is like gravity. And for me, it helps establish verticality in a painting. And of course, when you're establishing verticality, it sort of makes you feel grounded. And if you look at the painting behind me, that is a painting that is 7 feet tall by 6 feet wide. And if you look over my right shoulder, maybe your left shoulder, you see all the drips coming down. It sort of grounds you. At least it grounds me.
Okay. And I just have one more question for you. What does being creative mean to you?
Gosh, being creative affects me in everything that I do. I think that when you are an artist, and everyone is an artist, let me say that. I think everyone is an artist in their own way. My husband does not think he's an artist because he's very precise, but he is very much of an artist in the things that he does well, like finding solutions to problems. I think when you finally accept that you're an artist, you realize that art transcends. It's not just painting. It's what you do when you're cooking. It's what you do when you're gardening. It's what you do when you're planning a party. It's what you do in design. I think that being creative to me means having the personal freedom to share your curiosity and the wonders of your world with others. It's a real freedom of vulnerability that you can say, I care about this in my painting, but it's, I think, a real expression of how you share the wonder of your world with other people. At least that's what it means to me.
Well said. And thank you for your time.
You are so welcome, Abby. It's nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too.